Did you know that the rogues on Lighthouse don't always aggro, and that you can run around inside the water treatment plant without being annihilated by them? This gives you a few advantages. One, it makes it easier to get some of the tasks inside the water treatment plant done. Also, you don't have to worry about taking all the time to clear all of the rogues out before you even start doing your tasks. In addition to all of this, it gives you a bit of protection from many other players and player scavs. One of the funniest things I've ever been able to do in Tarkov is watch another PMC get mowed down by the mounted gun because they are aggro to rogues, but I wasn't. That guy just got smoked by the mounted gun up there. I would have paid to have been on their Discord comms after that whole run-in. So how do you do this? Like most things in Tarkov, it's easier said than done, but there are a few simple rules to follow, and you'll practically be best friends with the rogues in no time at all. Now, that's sarcasm, of course, because one of the rules is don't get too close to them. But let's get to the basics first. First up is the most important, and that is your faction. Are you bear or are you sec? And I'll save you some time right now. If you're bear, most of the rest of the video doesn't matter to you. Though I still suggest watching it because Tarkov is a knowledge game, and the more you know about its mechanics, the better you are at the game. But if you are going to leave, maybe consider dropping a like since I saved you some time. It helps me out a ton, and it doesn't cost you anything. Plus, if you subscribe and we get a faction that is pro-bear and anti-USEC, and we do a guide there, you'll know about that when it comes out. Now, if you're a USEC, your default aggro with the rogues is neutral. This means they won't shoot you on sight, but they also don't help you out in any direct way. It's really that simple too. Nothing fancy, no tasks. Your default state with them is they don't kill you. Now, if their aggro stance with you does change to hostile, which we'll go over some of that in a minute, it's not permanent and it doesn't take any tasks to change it back. Simply put, you have to run 3 raids and not aggro the rogues again. This can be on any map, any length. Just survive 3 raids, and on the 4th raid, your aggro status is set back to neutral. And in fact, I don't even think you have to survive the raids. You just have to run 3 raids. So you could go factory, fight somebody, die, and then 3 of those and you're done. But the important thing, what causes the rogues to actually aggro you? Well, first up is the most obvious. If you shoot one of them or damage them in any way, they will switch from neutral to hostile. And this applies to all the rogues on the map and everyone in your squad. So for example, if you and your buddy are on opposite sides of the water treatment plant and you shoot a rogue and your buddy's kind of standing out in the open in front of one, the rogue's going to shoot him now. And that's even if it's different rogues. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the same one. Once you light one up, they're all hostile towards you. In addition to this, keep in mind that if you have a bear PMC in your squad, you are also hostile as soon as you spawn in, regardless if you're USEC or not. Now, the next way to trigger hostile status is if you get within 10 meters of any rogue. Regardless of line of sight, they will switch from neutral to aggro. This means that even if you don't see a rogue because he's on the other side of a wall or he's on the roof and you're close to it somehow, close proximity will still trigger the aggro. It's not a 10-meter line of sight thing. It is a bubble around them, just an invisible magic bullet bubble that they detect you in. Now, one other interesting thing is rogues will also pursue you to check you out, even when they are neutral. This means they will walk towards you and maybe even run towards you and cause aggro via the radius by themselves. So you need to keep an eye on them and maintain distance, because if one's patrolling or walking around and he sees you, he's gonna come walking towards you. Now, the last way to cause aggro is getting too close to one of the mounted guns. So this is gonna be the AGS or the big 50 cal. And this includes obviously climbing on one as well. The problem here is close isn't consistent. For example, on top of buildings 1, 2, or 3, you can get very close to some of them on the guns and not trigger aggro. But if you go up into the tower at the front of the water treatment plant where the AGS is, or get too close to the gun on the Connex that's on next to it, that will trigger aggro without getting actually on the gun itself. And to add an extra little bit of complexity to this, not all of these aggro statuses stick for 3 raids. For example, if you get too close to a rogue, they aggro and shoot you. As long as you don't shoot back, the very next raid, your status is still set to neutral. But good luck getting 10 meters from a rogue, having him start shooting you, and you get away without dying, without having to kill him. Possible, but not very likely. One helpful thing is that all these rules apply to your player scav as well, except the 3 raid reset thing. Each scav raid resets on its own. So you kill rogues 1 raid, the next raid you're neutral again. And in addition to this, if some other player scav not in your group triggers aggro, it won't cause them to aggro you with that. There's no like, okay, once the rogues are aggro to one scav, they're aggro to all scavs, which personally I kind of think that's how it should be, but it's not, so you're good there. Now, there's not a lot of indicators if they're aggro to you other than they're going to shoot at you, right? Like they're going to see you, they're going to shoot at you. But voice lines do give you a hint, but it's not 100%. A few examples of them yelling at you when they aren't aggro to you is, "We have locals," or "Scav spotted." You know, those kind of voice lines indicate that they've spotted you, but they're not going to kill you. And it can be unnerving because they see it and you're like, oh my God, is he going to aggro me? But as long as you don't do one of the things already mentioned, they won't shoot you. It just takes a little time to get used to that little tension when you're running up to them. Now, when they are hostile, and this is hostile to anybody on the map, they will yell things like "enemy spotted." But keep in mind, this doesn't necessarily mean they are aggro to you. I've noticed that when someone aggros them, doesn't matter if it's a PMC or a player scav, they will yell these hostile voice lines at me, even though I'm not aggro. And this can be confusing, but you just got to keep calm and test the waters as safely as you can to determine if they're aggro to you or not. Now, a few myths I busted in testing this, I want to specifically mention. First, going onto the roofs of the buildings, building 1, 2, or 3, will not cause aggro by itself. If you get too close to a rogue or a gun, yes, you will aggro, but it's not because you're on the roof. Along with this, going inside buildings does not cause aggro. I thought this for a long time, that if you're going inside building 1 or 3 caused aggro, but it turns out what was happening was me just getting inside that 10-meter bubble of the rogues, and I couldn't see them. I didn't know they were there, which would cause the aggro. Third up, smokes, flashes, and grenades that don't damage them will not cause aggro. They will get off their guns and run away, but they won't start shooting at you. This is actually a great way to get them to move from an area you want to cross through or clear out of buildings you need to get into for tasks. Just bring a couple flashes with you, throw them, they'll yell or run away, and you're good. Fourth, ADSing or pointing your weapon at them does not cause them to aggro. You can see some creepy stuff happen. They will look at you like on a mounted gun. You'll see them turn their head and kind of peek at you and turn away, which is creepy. And it's crazy that the AI actually does that, but it has nothing to do with aggro or killing you. Voice lining at them can get them to aggro you, but it's not super consistent. I have voice lined and flipped them off and done all sorts of things, and they won't shoot me. But I've also done it before where I've just done a flippant voice line and they're pissed off and they start hunting me. So I wasn't able to track down specifics on that, but just be careful with don't double tap F1 or use voice lines around them unless you're willing to risk that getting shot at. Now, a few more points I want to mention here that just don't really fit in anywhere else, but are still good to know. AI scavs will roam around the water treatment plant, and they'll even be on top of buildings and near the rogues, and they won't cause aggro, they won't fight each other, but they will still engage you as normal. But shooting them will not trigger the rogues in any way, shape, or form. Just make sure you're shooting AI scavs and not rogues, because sometimes it can be hard to tell. Just remember, the rogues will always have English voice lines, while scavs will have their typical Russian voice lines. It's not like raiders, where some of the raiders are USEC and some are bear, and you kind of hear both voice lines. Rogues are always USEC voice lines. The next up is I want to talk ranges here, and it's not rock solid, and it depends on your faction. Bear for sure get shot much further away from the water treatment plant than USECs do. I've seen people die as far away as the upper chalet where the tennis court is from the AGS. There was a dead body up there. I ran up to him, found his tag. He died to, it was like Grand Thumb or something like that, one of the rogue names, and it was the AGS that killed him. Now, this could have been a freak accident or a bug, but if you're bear, you need to be very aware of your distance to the rogues. I mean, we're talking pushing 300, 400, maybe even 500 meters that they can shoot. And again, it might be a bug, but it can happen. Now, as far as USEC, when you are aggro to them, it's, anywhere from 250 to 300 meters, though I have had them shoot at me further away. Again, I think it's some sort of bug versus intended mechanic. But for example, I've been up on top of Idiot Rock shooting at the guys at the front gate, and I've had the AGS aim up and start shooting at me. Though most of the time they don't. I'll be up there, shoot them. I can clear a lot of the rogue camp from up there and never get shot at. And then occasionally I will. So that's that. That's the video. I hope this was helpful. I hope I was able to explain this to you. Whenever I'm in the water treatment plant, I always get a lot of questions about how I'm in there and they're not shooting me. So hopefully this explains that and makes it to where people understand it, as well as can use it and have a little bit easier time on the Lighthouse map, which is pretty rough. Before we wrap it up though, I want to do a shout out for my music. Links down in the description below. It's made in conjunction with Low Wave Records. It's free to listen to. It supports the stream. If you're a content creator, you can use it yourself on your streams or your YouTube videos without having to worry about DMC takedowns or copyright strikes. That's why we made it. We made it for the community to use. All we ask is that you attribute us so people that like it know where to find it, and that's it. So check it out. Let me know what you think, what your favorite song is. There's a bunch of albums, 190 songs almost there, and it's good stuff. I listen to it every day. But we'll wrap her up there. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I wish you the best of luck in your raids, and we'll see you in Tarkov.